Hello, this is Neil from ipaintgirls.com. You can visit my website, the link is in the description. And someone sent me a message saying, hey, how would you draw a photo from reference? And this is the reference photo he sent me. And so I thought, hey, that's a cool idea. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing, what I like to do is I use the same techniques that I teach because you want to learn the human form. You want to learn it as good as you can from your mind. Um, Help you draw more complicated photos from reference better. But nonetheless, I like to use the same kind of basic principles I would if I was just using the techniques I show in my drawing or mastering the human figure course, the 10-hour course. So I would, kind of start with the head kind of shape, and I would kind of throw in, shoulder shape. Obviously, I wouldn't want to be that big, and I want it to be smaller. And I would kind of, personally for me, I would really exaggerate everything, and I would come out here, and I would kind of exaggerate the pose probably a little bit, and make everything like this, really, really big hands. And that's just me. This is how I would want to do it. I'd want to really exaggerate everything, but I start with, more of like stick figures. But if you want to do more of a realistic type of drawing, then you're going to want to try to stick to pretty much the proportions you have. You might even want to go ahead and draw lines over and maybe make marks so you know where you're going to be at. If you feel like, hey, well, that's cheating, you're just because you're taking and you're drawing right next to the photo where things are going to be. So that's cheating. Well, fine. Then take the time and you can measure the distance. If you're looking at a live person, you can kind of measure the different the distance of with your pen. Like look at your pen out in front of you, measure the distance of the head. All these great artists did that when they were doing from reference. You can also throw her on a grid and then be like, okay, her head is about this many squares high on the grid. You can just go view and let me see here. I haven't done this in a while. I don't use grids all that often, but you can show grid. You can also customize your grid, and you go, okay, well, her head is like 1, 2, 3, 4 squares high, and so you don't have to draw the lines coming over from it. You can just kind of, figure out with the grid and be like, okay, I know, she's gonna be about like in here, and her shoulder length will be about that, and so forth. So that's another option you have to start getting more accuracy. You can measure each part with a ruler and then go, okay, I know her head's that tall, and then from here to here to be about here to get these same lines. So it's all up to you how you want to get those lines. But the main thing I want to do first is a stick figure, and I'm not going to be worried too much about the length and of everything, proportions and all that at this point. At this point, I mostly am just focusing on what is the shape of the person I'm going for in a more of a stick figure fashion. So, but I am kind of paying attention to where I'm placing everything. And so let's see, this is really foreshortened, so it's going to be super tiny. Just to show you how foreshortened it is, let's go ahead and draw a straight line from here by holding down the shift key. That's how foreshortened that is. That goes all the way from there, to the ankle, and then you have that little part here, and then the foot is taking up the rest of the space here. And this is super foreshortened back here. As you can see, from here to here, that right there that's the knee already. And so sometimes it can be confusing seeing, just how far everything is away from each other with the naked eye. And so measuring is important, and all the great artists, measured. So don't feel like it's not something you can do, like measuring is cheating or something. If you're drawing for reference and the point is you're trying to get it as accurate as possible, then yeah, you're going to want to measure. Notice this hand, it comes down quite far, so just kind of draw circles, where the hands are going to kind of be. I might kind of come out where I know this arm's going to be like this, and then there's going to be this shoulder, and this arm right here is pretty foreshortened. So this reference has a lot of foreshortening going on, and that's something you want to keep in mind as you're drawing it. So like that. This is actually going to be up a lot higher, as you can see. So, but this was just the bottom curve down here, that crotch area here. The legs will be coming off that and over there. All that will be very small. But what I do want to do is get kind of width of the hip in here, and something like that. So, right. So once I start getting all this down, the stick figure's kind of looking right, everything's kind of looking, where it's supposed to be. Then that's when I'm going to go in and start thinking about negative shapes and stuff. So here's the next step. The next step then is thinking about negative space. Negative space is everything outside the image, all these shapes that appear outside the image. This is a good negative space shape here. So when you pay attention to the negative space shapes, this helps you when drawing the figure. So you want to make sure those are matching up so you can get the figure looking about, correct. Another thing you might want to do is think about measurements again. So one quick way in Photoshop to do this, with pencil you can just measure it with a ruler or something, but you can make a new layer, for example, and then just quickly measure, do some measurements here. So you just kind of know about how wide everything needs to be. So from here to there, that's about how wide everything needs to be. So I know, okay, I need to take the edge of my shoulder out, and it has to come out more here, and my arm out here. So it has to be something like that. And from this here, I'm going to start drawing basic shapes. So just keep the shapes very basic right now. You're just doing cylinders and things like this. Still, I'm not even worried too much about fingers or anything yet, but I might want to start kind of just figuring out the placement of them. I'm going to lump those two together as just one kind of big shape. So I do want to kind of start paying attention somewhat to shapes. And, now I got to pay attention to negative space. So I have this negative space in here because objects are overlapping, and I kind of want to make sure that's correct. So, well, not kind of, I want to make sure that's correct. I shouldn't speak passively. I should speak directly. I know the thumb is going to extend out over this arm a little bit, and so I want to go ahead and create that there now. And so this is the process that I would follow as I'm creating the image. You could also, make sure, hey, are things lining up correctly as you're working? And Photoshop, it's really easy to do that. Like, okay, I need to bring this down a little bit further. Maybe not that far, but like, let's say that right there. So I know that that part of the thumb needs to be right about here. So when you make little mistakes like this, you just correct them. And you can usually see it with your naked eye, like, okay, I kind of made a mistake there. So what happened? What went wrong? Do a quick measurement. I'm just going to do basic shape here and here. And that's why at this stage you don't get too detailed, because you know that you're going to be having to erase things and re-put them where they need to be. There's a lot of information over here, and I'm thinking, the top of the finger might be a little too high, and the bottom of her chin is like here. So just take my eraser brush here. Just going to kind of erase some of this in here. Want to kind of place that chin where I know it's going to have to be. Then I know this finger. Once I have, once you know where the chin's supposed to be, like that, right? So you can place the chin in there. And once you kind of have the place where the chin, it's not going to be perfect or anything. I'm not drawing the actual shape of the face yet. Just kind of drawing the chin. Am I have two layers? Oh, I do. Okay. Okay. So once I have that placement of the chin there, then I know, okay, well that's where this finger begins to curl. It barely covers her chin. There's one there, there. Now the biggest problem I have with drawing from reference is what I tend to do is I want to make everything bigger than it actually is. And sometimes to help that, I either have to do what I'm doing here, keep lining everything up and measuring everything, use a grid, or I have to actually draw it, have the image smaller. So I need to be kind of, if it's a real life image, I tend to stand farther away from it than most people would. But when it's a real life image, I don't know, it seems to be a little bit easier for me than a photo reference. But if I make her smaller than when I'm drawing, I tend to do better that way. I don't know, if I see her from farther away, it this helps me for some reason. And so really it's just a matter of a lot of measuring, and so don't feel bad about measuring. Again, it's what a lot of the greats did. And notice that line right there. So that's where that part of the finger, this finger then, should just barely come up past that. If I just draw that line, oops, draw that line there, again at that knuckle coming across, the finger should only go over that line a little bit. So I'm going to kind of draw that part of the shape of the finger, and then this part of the shape of the finger. So it's all about crowding a bunch of information in small little spaces. That's how I think of it as. I know that this finger comes up higher than that one, but I don't want to draw it too big. And it's going to come up a little bit like that, to the side a little bit right here, and then start coming down right here. So I don't even worry about any details until I have all the measurements figured out. Once all the measurements are figured out and everything's starting to look correct, it's only then do I actually start to go in and do more details. Now that's just the measurements of the fingers. I haven't done any details of the fingers yet. That's just pure measurements. This muscle right here comes up here, comes down. It's gonna be thin. I want to make sure I grab that negative space right there with that arm. So there's this negative space right in here between the hand and arm. So that's one of the things you want to pay attention to. That's how you're gonna you're gonna get your accuracy with your drawing, is you're gonna pay attention to those negative spaces. So it's starting to, come together. You start to get more shapes going on that you need there. Again, you can take another measurement of the width to make sure that you have the width correct still. Take a measure from the bottom of the hand just to make sure okay, this is about where that thumb is going to be. Might even be a little bit over here, to make sure you have that little shape right there, that negative space is correct. And then pull that arm across in that shape. Come here, the arm overlaps a little bit there. Remember, this is coming all the way down to about here. You have your thumb, which takes up about that much space. So it's really just looking at the relativeness of all the spaces as they connect together, and then taking little measurements and stuff. You have to do your ruler, or lay a grid over. You can also take like you can buy grids at the store, which is like clear plastic, and the grid is painted on with like gray color or whatever. You could lay that over the photograph, and then you can have another grid like that on your paper, or work on grid paper that matches, and you can get accurate measurements that way as well, by looking at the relation of the grid and how many how much space is between squares and stuff. Like if we just go ahead and show that grid again, you can go, okay, well, there's this much space within that grid square, and if you have the same grid over here matching that grid, which is not right now, I'd have to move the drawing over a little bit, then you can match that up. So I'm going to go ahead and just not show extras right now. Take the another measurement for the bottom of the fingers again, just so you know, okay, this is where that middle finger is going to be. It's going to be somewhere in this area here. It's going to come and have this part of the hand. All this part of the hand is going to kind of fan out. Now this again is only if you're trying to get an accurate drawing of what you're looking at. If you just want a representation, then you can exaggerate it and change it all you want, and I prefer that. There's more freedom, it's funner. You're kind of getting the general idea, and I like to usually exaggerate the poses I'm drawing from anyway, but yeah, everyone's different. So I'm just about out of time, and so I don't really. And you can also pay attention, like how far is this line on this arm, and how much space is on each side of it, so you kind of know where that line should come in when you draw it, and how much farther from this should this begin to curve up and make the love handle. And now I'm pretty much definitely out of time. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this helps the person that asked me how to do it. Again, I prefer the beginning method I showed you, which is exaggerating. Thanks for watching.